Unlike his well-known father, Michael Jackson, Prince Jackson has mostly avoided the spotlight. However, the King of Pop's legacy still shapes his and his siblings' lives. Prince recently talked about the effects of his father's celebrity, unusual childhood, and adjusting to adulthood while respecting Michael's legacy. Prince has forged his path, dedicated to charitable work and maintaining ties with family despite public rumors. Come along as we examine Prince's path and difficulties since Michael's death. Michael Jackson's own huge family was inspired by having many siblings. Michael Jackson fans probably consider his solo career, but what about the period before he became a household name in music? In a short period, Jackson became well known as a member of the Jackson 5, a trendy band that included 5 of the 9 Jackson brothers. Siblings surrounded Michael, but being a part of a large family also meant that he reportedly knew early on that he desired a huge family similar to his own. In 1994, he married Lisa Marie Presley, but no children were in the cards by their divorce 2 years later. Several of Michael Jackson's siblings are still active musicians. It may surprise you to learn that Michael Jackson made his debut at the age of 6. The Jackson siblings have left their impact on the globe, even though he's still likely the most well-known. Jackie Jackson has persisted in refining his expanding musical career and producing music. LaToya used to be one of the band's backing vocalists. Jermaine was responsible for several of the band's greatest songs, and Tito left the family to pursue a career as a guitarist. Because of her remarkable singing career, frequently accompanied by breathtaking choreography during her live performances, Janet Jackson is undoubtedly the second most well-known of the Jackson siblings. In February 1997, Michael Jackson began to fantasize about having a family. Even though Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley's relationship didn't work out, it appeared that the King of Pop would fall in love with Debbie Rowe, a dermatologist's assistant. Soon after the couple's 1996 wedding, Michael's aspirations to start a family were realized. In February 1997, the couple welcomed Michael Jackson Jr., but something was lacking. As it turned out, the musician sought a method to demonstrate to the world that the two were inextricably linked and that their romance would go down in history. Prince was born shortly after that. Unfortunately, Michael and Debbie's relationships ends when they bring Prince home. Michael's first and only daughter, Paris Jackson, was born. After just a few months with Prince, there was further news. Michael Jackson and Debbie Rowe were expecting their second child. When the little child appeared in April 1998, the world knew she was on the way without any delay. Naturally, Michael needed to give his first daughter another memorable name. The arrival of Paris Michael Catherine Jackson was swift. Although it's unclear if he loved the city, he acknowledged that the middle name Paris had significance. Before Paris joined the Jacksons at the Neverland Ranch, it turned out that he wanted to give his daughter's name Vitality by using both his and his mother's names. Every second spent with the kids was caught on video. Michael Jackson had never concealed his desire to have a big family, just like the one he had as a child. Fortunately, when Paris and Prince were born, everything came into place. But that didn't mean Michael would relax and let Debbie Rowe handle everything. Michael wanted to record every moment, so oh no. According to reports, Michael frequently followed his kids about with a camera since he was concerned about documenting everything. Furthermore, it's said that the singer would choose out every dress for his kids. Nevertheless, Paris and Prince later acknowledged that they were always having a great time in pictures of them around Neverland because Michael wanted things to appear genuine. The Neverland Ranch emerged as the best location for kid rearing. Michael Jackson was well known for several reasons. His Neverland Ranch was one of the more odd and many items of the list. Indeed, it continues to be regarded as one of the most recognizable celebrity residences ever. Even though he acquired the ranch before having children, the Neverland Ranch soon proved to be the ideal setting for raising them. A carousel and roller coaster were quickly constructed in the ground. and a sizable section was devoted to a fully supplied zoo. Since then, Paris has acknowledged that she would ride her favorite carousel horse for hours on end. The Jackson children essentially had their theme park at the Neverland Ranch, but it wasn't like that. Prince Jackson and Paris were prohibited from using the theme park daily. Many assumed that Paris and Prince played outside all day because they had a theme park, but that wasn't the case. Michael Jackson set guidelines for when they could ride the rides, restricting some to specific days of the week or special events. The King of Pop reportedly feared that his kids would become used to their possessions. By ensuring they could not ride items daily, Paris and Prince continued to be thrilled whenever they could ride the Ferris wheel, which was saved for special occasions like birthdays and holidays, or when performing their chores. Michael Jackson's family life was always heavily influenced by his sense of style. Among the many things Michael Jackson will be known for throughout history are his dance moves and iconic songs. But his extraordinary sense of style was another that appeared to captivate the world. Perhaps it should be no surprise that Paris and Prince are frequently spotted wearing stylish attire. Everything began when they were born. Some have claimed that the children shouldn't have been dressed in such ludicrous attire and that things went too far. However, they always looked their finest in family photo albums since Michael hand-picked their clothing. Paris was typically spotted wearing dresses and bows, while Prince wore pants and shirts. Their passion for fashion is still there today. There was a lot of debate when Blanket was first introduced to the public. The King of Pop's affections for his family were never concealed. However, when a third child was born, his passion for showing off his kids may have gone too far. By this time, Michael was divorced from Debbie Rowe. Therefore, he decided to use an unidentified surrogate who gave birth to his second son in February 2002. Prince Michael Jackson II, also known as Blanket throughout his life, but now he goes by Biggie. The musician reportedly felt that a blanket is a blessing and intended to use it as a way of showing love and caring. However, it was not warmly received when he hung Blanket over the side of a hotel railing in Berlin. Peter Pan greatly influenced Michael. While many children were still learning to read and write, Michael Jackson was well known due to his early involvement with the Jackson 5. This implied, of course, that his early years were very peculiar. Many believe Michael despised his popularity because he admitted that his brothers were his only true friends. In any event, Michael immediately turned to Peter Pan for solace. He was a child who had never grown up, but he soon became a source of inspiration for musicians, even coming up with the concept for the Neverland Ranch. Fortunately, Paris, Prince, and Blanket frequently dressed as the other characters, suggesting they took up Michael's passion for the tale. Michael Jackson made every effort to keep his kids out of the spotlight. Many of us will never know what it's like to be the child of a world-famous person. Michael Jackson had to strike a difficult balance between keeping his children's lives secret and presumably wanting to flaunt them. It seems that he didn't want them to have the same upbringing that he had. So how could Michael spend time with his family and keep his kids safe when they were out in public? As it turns out, Paris, Prince, and Blanket would all cover themselves from the cameras by wearing clothing, masks, or textiles outside the house. Unfortunately, this frequently just served to increase awareness. Attending a regular school was out of the question for the Jackson kids. Michael Jackson's children were shielded from the world for reasons other than simply being in the spotlight. Since the musician was the focus of so much conversation, Michael was concerned that if his children attended the same school as everyone else, they would be the target of many intrusive moments. To prevent unwanted attention, they were instead kept out of conventional classrooms. Unfortunately, this resulted in another problem. The Jackson kids could not make new friends organically. At parties or while their parents were with Michael at the Neverland Ranch celebrations, they instead spent their time socializing with other well-known kids. The Hadids, who included models Bella and Gigi, were among the numerous families they were close to. Much work went into maintaining normalcy for Michael Jackson's kids. No matter how hard Michael Jackson tried, Prince, Paris, and Blanket would never be expected because they were his children. Michael continued to push despite this, but it's said that he occasionally caved and gave his kids anything they desired. Fortunately, the musician made an effort to maintain equilibrium as well. At times, the three kids were permitted to have their faces exposed in front of the cameras as Michael attempted to balance his work and his role as a father at home. Unfortunately, Michael Jackson's unexpected death on June 25, 2009 rocked the globe and tore away any possibility of normalcy the family had. The world was rocked by the news that Michael Jackson had died. The world was rocked by the day that Michael Jackson's death was announced. The Globe discovered the truth in minutes, yet many people didn't think it was real. Since Michael had been busy organizing a big event at the Staples Center, there were rumors that it was all a scam. Thousands of people purchased tickets to see the King of Pop, who was known to be on his farewell tour. It was even more heartbreaking to learn that he had died from an unintentional overdose of medication that had been administered to him. Many started to worry about how the kids would handle Michael's death at the age of 50. After Michael Jackson passed away, the three kids rose to fame. It's nearly impossible to predict how we will handle loss. Before Prince, Paris, and Blanket were prepared to face the world, they appeared to need some time away from it to say goodbye to their father. Fortunately, they were able to do just that. They didn't attend a memorial service with the general public until 12 days later. When Prince, Paris, and Blanket appeared at the Staples Center, many fans realized they hadn't seen or heard their voices in years. Blanket was primarily overwhelmed by it all because he was so little. Fortunately, Prince and Paris stayed together, and Prince acknowledged that Michael was the best father you could ever imagine. For his children, Michael Jackson's death created a wealth of chances. The woman who eventually became the children's guardian and helped Prince, Paris, and Blanket feel normal was Catherine Jackson, Michael's mother and the children's grandmother. To alleviate any residual anguish, one of Catherine's priorities was to relocate them from the Neverland Ranch to a gated enclave in Calabasas. Additionally, she decided that the three should attend school for the first time. However, Catherine didn't believe attending public school was the best option. Prince, Paris, and Blanket were instead sent to a private school where they could go out with their faces exposed if they wanted to and had the opportunity to meet true friends. They were closely observed whenever the three Jackson children went out in public. Despite her best efforts, it appears that Catherine Jackson's desire to provide the kids with everyday lives would never succeed. Since they were isolated from the outside world and had the King of Pop as their father, most people were curious about their hobbies and lives. They wanted to know everything now that Michael was no longer with them. Unfortunately, this also meant that the international media frequently trailed Prince, Paris, and Blanket everywhere they went. When Michael received the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2010, they were asked to accept a Grammy. Although they wore red armbands in Michael's honor, Blanket found it too much and instead hid in the crowd with his adorable bear. Prince Jackson was able to make an appearance in one of the most popular drama series of 2013. It was one thing to make an appearance on Entertainment Tonight, but it was quite another to be invited to guest on one of the most popular drama shows ever. Given that the teenager was requested to appear in 90210 in 2013, many people think that Michael Jackson will be pleased that Prince could accomplish both. It was a minor role, but a significant accomplishment. In the season finale, Prince had the opportunity to showcase his range as an actor. In this instance, he portrayed a music enthusiast who was supposed to be enjoying a concert when a falling stage hurt his character. Of course, Prince had the opportunity to interact with some well-known people because he was in 90210. Prince Jackson added that going to college was one of his accomplishments. For any child celebrity, juggling years in front of the cameras while trying to lead an everyday life may be difficult. Prince Jackson never had a typical childhood, but he somehow found a way to maintain as much equilibrium as possible. He was only 17 years old at one of those incidents. Prince decided to go to college and get his degree to become even more well-rounded than he was at the time. Fortunately, his house in Los Angeles was only a short commute from Loyola Marymount University in California. Prince began by studying movies, but ultimately he pursued a business degree instead. Prince Jackson's collaboration with Blanket opened the door for a new endeavor. When Prince Jackson graduated from college, he was 22 years old, and soon after, everyone was curious about his plans. He made big news in just one day and wasn't alone. Prince said that he intended to collaborate with Blanket on a new project. The child had already changed his name to Biggie, but this would still be far from the blanket the world saw hanging over a balcony. The brothers acknowledged that they planned to create videos critiquing different movies for a social media channel. Unfortunately, the initiative appears to have taken a back seat, even though their videos have received millions of views. Prince may want to pursue a music career like Michael Jackson did. Prince Jackson has a long list of personal objectives. Nonetheless, his primary goal throughout this has been to carry out actions that would bring Michael Jackson great pride. Prince has clarified that he doesn't want his father to be forgotten, even though many people are carrying on his legacy. Prince has stated that he wants to pursue a music career to best respect his father. In a 2016 interview with the LA Times, Prince acknowledged that Michael's music had always influenced his life. The child intends to follow in his father's footsteps by producing and directing his movie. Paris and Prince have frequently displayed their intimate bond to the world. The Jackson children were held in secret for years. They haven't completely forgotten about their father, even if they have only established themselves in the past 10 years. In reality, in the years since their father's death, Prince and Paris frequently show up at red carpet events and award shows to accept gifts on his behalf. The brother and sister pair made an appearance hand-in-hand at a 60 Years of Motown gala in 2019. Despite Biggie's decision to avoid the red carpet, his elder siblings demonstrated that Michael's legacy will endure forever. Finest part? Paris and Prince took advantage of the opportunity to present their closeness to the globe. On what would have been Michael's birthday, these siblings recently expressed their love for him. Accepting things on Michael Jackson's behalf is one of the numerous ways Paris and Prince have ensured his memory lives on. On August 29, 2022, the day their late father would have turned 64, the brother and sister team also sent a happy birthday message on social media. The two posted many old pictures from their early years, such as one of the three siblings in a high chair cooking with their father and celebrating with their family. "I miss you more and more, but I love you more and more with each day," Prince said, thanking Michael for everything. Paris Jackson had a difficult adolescence. Paris Jackson's working years have been among the best in recent years. Unfortunately, the star's life hasn't always been easy. Paris, who subsequently admitted that she had no idea how she would handle Michael's absence, was 11 years old when the news broke that her father had died. We found out that Paris was addicted to illegal narcotics and had made a couple of unsuccessful suicide attempts when she was 15 years old. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Paris acknowledged that she battled depressing thoughts for a large portion of her adolescence until her family had to intervene. Paris's life was probably spared by temporarily separating from the Jacksons. Paris Jackson had little choice but to accept her family's assistance because, at 15, she had no idea where to turn to get her life back on track. They all agreed that Paris should relocate from California to Utah so she could concentrate on her studies at the therapeutic school and overcome her addictions. According to reports, the Jacksons also hoped Paris would learn how to improve her life. This could have been the difference that saved her life. In the years since, Paris acknowledged that it's changed everything and motivated her to enroll in a community college. Since then, Paris has been figuring out how to live life on her own. Paris Jackson had the opportunity to focus on her modeling career after graduating college. Even if she left college early, Paris Jackson had a goal. She would become a model. Since Paris seems to have an innate tendency to draw the camera's attention, many people thought this was the ideal way to begin a new life. She's also been in front of the camera from the beginning. Designers and talent scouts lined up to work with Paris since Michael had spent most of his children's lives taking family portraits. When Paris was signed to the esteemed IMG Models company in 2017, it marked a sea change. Before long, Paris appeared on the cover of Vogue. Paris Jackson aspires to emulate her father's constructive influence on society. As it turns out, Paris has always had big aspirations for a modeling career, and they don't always involve posing for pictures. Instead, she wishes to adopt Michael Jackson's style and apply it to her job. With his songs, Michael frequently had a beneficial influence. Now it's Paris's turn. When she discussed her goals with Vogue Australia, Paris acknowledged her desire to make a positive imprint on the fashion industry. The fashion industry has come under fire for attempting to impose specific standards on people worldwide. Like many others, Paris is aware that there is no one-size-fits-all standard. During Paris Fashion Week, Paris Jackson had the opportunity to walk. There are typically many unforgettable experiences associated with becoming a model. Not everyone can attend some of the world's most meaningful events. However, in January 2020, Paris Jackson was able to walk as a model during Paris Fashion Week. Therefore, it was Paris by name, Paris by world dominance. Paris was a model for the Spring-Summer 2020 collection of Jean-Paul Gaultier Haute Couture. Paris grabbed the stage in one of the year's most anticipated fashion weeks with Gigi and Bella Hadid among the other prominent figures. The model's flawless portrayal of the clothing didn't surprise many. When Paris Jackson and Gabrielle Glenn began dating, the Sunflowers were founded. After losing her father, Paris Jackson has maintained her career as a model for many years, but it's more than that. As it turns out, she's been doing reasonably well and has even dabbled in music. Paris took center stage in the band The Sunflowers came to life because of her connection with Gabrielle Glenn. Paris had lots of time to focus on her music, described as a hippie folk fusion, but they've since broken up. It was not long before the two gained a sizable following. Many were eager to see what Michael Jackson's daughter would contribute to the music industry and their new sound. Paris Jackson's tattoo collection is well known for constantly expanding. Paris Jackson's tattoo collection is another thing that's generated a lot of conversation about her over the years. Amazingly, Michael Jackson had numerous cosmetic tattoos, including eyebrows and lip liner, that were only discovered after his death. As they spread throughout her body, Paris's inks are more noticeable than those of her late father. Paris waited until she reached legal adulthood before getting her first tattoo, but she didn't waste any time in building up her collection. She currently has over 50 inkings. They all seem to have a purpose. Her B is for Biggie, and she has animal tattoos of peacocks, birds, and elephants to symbolize her love of the natural world. Paris was more affected by Michael Jackson's passing than her siblings were. It's a common argument among parents that they don't have a favorite child. Michael Jackson was no different. Despite this, the siblings continue questioning if their father had a favorite, with Paris believing she won. Despite being the only daughter of the artist, she acknowledged that Michael loved every one of his children equally. Paris never had to ask for anything because her father was always there to provide her with all she required. Furthermore, according to Paris, Michael would often brag to others about his daughter's accomplishments. Unfortunately, Paris was particularly affected when Michael died because they were so close. In 2022, there were rumors that Paris Jackson had died. The Jackson children will likely remain in the news for a long time. After all, a lot of people are curious about their siblings and their plans after losing their father. Unfortunately, Paris Jackson has been in the news more than her brothers. In 2022, she had no control over it. Many people thought that Paris had died in secret during the summer of 2022. She's not the first famous person to deal with such allegations. Fortunately, they're untrue. Despite this, many people still posted condolences on her social media profiles because they thought Paris had indeed passed away. Debbie Rowe holds herself partially responsible for Michael Jackson's death. The loss of Michael Jackson caused a significant void in the music industry. The Jackson family suffered greatly since they had to adjust to life without the King of Pop. Debbie Rowe, Paris and Prince's mother, was equally affected by the news, even though they'd been divorced for years by the time he passed away. This wasn't always the case, though, as many people thought. As it happens, Debbie frequently holds herself responsible for Michael's death. In the most recent TMZ Investigates documentary aired on television in September 2022, the crew looked into Michael's last few months of life, and Debbie was held mainly accountable. Debbie Rowe felt great responsibility because she worked as a doctor. As it turns out, Debbie Rowe placed her children in Michael Jackson's custody following their divorce, which is why she was absent during Prince and Paris's early years. She would first make scheduled visits to see the kids. Debbie later attempted to revoke the termination of her paternal rights, which had occurred in 2001. Why does Debbie hold herself responsible for Michael's death? She declines to discuss Michael in the documentary. Nevertheless, she claims she was just as terrible as her former supervisor, Dr. Klein, who was charged with writing Michael's prescription. "I should have done something, and I didn't," Debbie admitted, before saying, "I was as bad as him." Blanket Jackson had an opportunity to start again when he changed his name to Biggie. When Michael Jackson died, Paris and Prince were old enough to realize the full scope of the situation. Unfortunately, Blanket, the youngest of the three, seems overwhelmed by the problem. He now appears to have largely withdrawn from the spotlight and would lead a private life instead. As if that weren't enough, Blanket began referring to himself as Biggie in 2015 and severed all connections with his previous existence. Biggie decided to fire Blanket since it thought that he was being harassed because of his nickname. His new name, German, represents idealism, inspiration, and sensitivity, and has boosted Biggie's self-esteem. Biggie Jackson would rather avoid the spotlight. Many have questioned whether Biggie comprehended what was happening, particularly about his father's celebrity, given that he was so young when Michael Jackson died. Biggie might not have understood that Michael was among the most excellent musicians ever. It might also be the reason he'd rather keep his life private. We know that Biggie enjoys spending time with his family and friends. In addition, he loves comic books and movies. The fact that Biggie and Prince have a deep passion for film and extensive knowledge of the subject is one of the primary reasons why people were drawn to their review series. Biggie's dislike of the spotlight is primarily due to his shyness. Biggie Jackson is not entirely hidden from the world just because he doesn't post on social media or spend time with his siblings on the red carpet. It turns out that Biggie's shyness is the main reason he keeps to himself. Fortunately, it looks like things might be about to change. In February 2020, Biggie and his brother Prince shared a photo commemorating Biggie's 18th birthday. As Biggie returns to the spotlight, it appears that this was a significant turning point for the child because he has subsequently consented to be featured in a few of his siblings' posts. He's even made an appearance on a few significant occasions. Biggie had the opportunity to invest in his own space after turning 18. Many people aspire to leave the nest and leave their stamp on the world, but not everyone has the opportunity to do it at the age of 18. Biggie Jackson, he decided to invest $2.6 million in his own home. Fortunately, Biggie has not been forced to abandon his family or let the outside world in. Biggie lives in Calabasas, California, so the other Jacksons are nearby. Furthermore, Biggie may remain isolated from the outside world because it's a gated community. Whether Michael Jackson's offspring will resemble the icon is a common question among fans. After their parents pass away, celebrity offspring frequently bear a heavy burden. After all, many people are curious about whether their children will continue their parents' legacy after spending so much time watching their favorite celebrities in the spotlight. The same swiftly applied to Michael Jackson's kids. Whether Prince, Paris, and Biggie would inherit Michael's personality was one of the questions people had, and it seems they have in different ways. Prince appears to have his father's trust. Paris is carrying on Michael's musical legacy. Biggie, particularly in the singer's later years, his grandfather believes he's most like his father. Prince and Paris have celebrated Michael Jackson's life at several red carpet events. People grieve for their loved ones in different ways. Biggie would rather avoid the media and focus on living away from the spotlight. Naturally, he'll always be able to reclaim the spotlight if he so desires, as he is Michael Jackson's youngest son. Prince and Paris have been more forthcoming about celebrating Michael and his life when given the opportunity. The siblings' appearance on the red carpet on their father's 60th birthday in 2018 was one of those occasions. They honored Michael's life and accepted the Elizabeth Taylor Legacy Award. The value of Prince, Paris, and Biggie Jackson have been discussed extensively. According to Forbes, Michael Jackson was the highest-paid celebrity to die for many years. With an expected salary of $75 million, he was ranked third on the list even in 2021. Since he's no longer here to enjoy his wealth, it goes directly to his surviving family. But what are his kids worth? Their riches extend beyond his estate, music, and other sources of income. It turns out that half of the Beatles' discography is also available to Prince, Paris, and Biggie Jackson. This indicates they get about $8 million from Michael's estate alone, and their combined assets may reach $100 million. The godparents of the three Jackson children are unique. Children Michael Jackson left behind will not be forgotten just because he's no longer with us. How can they handle their time in the spotlight without their well-known father? Thanks to Michael's contacts in the business, it turns out that the Jackson kids have some famous people watching out for them. For starters, Elizabeth Taylor was designated as the godmother of the Jackson children, and her family is now taking care of Prince, Paris, and Biggie in her absence. After years of being the King of Pop's closest friend, Macaulay Culkin has taken the news that he's been designated as the trio's godfather seriously. There was a lot of conjecture about Macaulay Culkin's connection to the Jacksons. Since becoming a kid star, Macaulay Culkin has encountered several problems. He seems to have survived everything from his battle with illegal substances to some public relationships and breakups and everything in between. Fortunately, Macaulay's first-hand experience also means that he has supported the Jackson children. Regrettably, rumors regarding Macaulay's friendship with Michael Jackson are among the issues he's faced. Given how young Macaulay was when he became acquainted with Michael, some people assert that a horrible incident occurred behind closed doors. Macaulay refutes all the allegations, even going so far as to say that he is Paris and Prince's biological father. Macaulay Culkin and Paris Jackson have a tight relationship. The fact that Paris and Macaulay Culkin have become closer than ever is only one of the many positive effects of Michael Jackson's passing. Long before the King of Pop passed away, their friendships began, and they've grown stronger ever since. In interviews, Macaulay frequently declines to discuss Paris, claiming to be very protective of her. Because of their inside joke about stealing spoons from everywhere they travel, the two even have identical spoon tattoos on their arms. Their social media posts and public images indicate they're even closer than most of us could ever think, even though they seldom discuss their relationship behind closed doors. According to specific allegations, Michael Jackson is not the biological father of his children. If there's one thing many people have realized, Michael Jackson rumors are probably here to stay. There are plenty of topics that have the globe talking, ranging from discussing his actions behind closed doors to questioning if he died. What if his children's biological father was never him? That's what some people say, particularly when Mark Lester, an actor, said he was requested to donate. He claims that because Mark was fertile and already had 4 children, Michael asked him to be the father of his children. Although there's no proof, Mark even said that Michael raised those children as his own. According to several reports, Michael Jackson had multiple children out of hidden love. Over the years, there have been discussions over more than only Michael Jackson's lack of biological paternity. As it turns out, several people have admitted that the King of Pop is their biological father, but he chose to keep their identities a secret. But sure, some tales seem to be more credible than others. Several well-known celebrities, including Justin Bieber and Johnny Depp, have been accused of having secret children. People appear to like coming forward and saying they've been raising the child of celebrities. Still, it's become difficult to determine whether Michael's supposed children speak the truth because of all the falsehoods and accusations. According to singer Brandon Howard, his DNA demonstrates that he is Michael Jackson's son. The world now knows that Miki Howard, the singer known by her stage name Billie, is Brandon Howard's mother. Does that sound familiar? In the 1980s, she was associated with Michael Jackson. Brandon was born in 1982, before the King of Pop's famous song Billie Jean. Seems that the two are related. Michael allegedly denies that he is Brandon's father in the song, but it hasn't prevented the rumors from spreading. It only grew stronger after Brandon claimed to have taken a DNA test that supposedly produced a 99.9% match after people first said that Brandon and Michael looked alike. Michael Jackson is still disputed by many as Brandon Howard's biological father. How then did Brandon Howard obtain a DNA test? That moment occurred when Dr. Joseph Goodman, a dentist from California, claimed to have received one of Michael Jackson's dental equipment. Before the DNA test revealed an apparent match, he reportedly bought the item at auction and compared it to a sample from Brandon. What does Brandon think of it all? As Jackson's attorney has often asserted, he assured fans that the DNA test was never about obtaining wealth and notoriety. Many people still question whether Michael is the singer's real father, and Michael's estate counsel even went so far as to claim that Brandon is a fraud and that he's never heard of the man. One of Michael Jackson's main concerns was always keeping the kids safe. Michael Jackson's desire to protect his family was one thing that remained constant throughout his life. Even while his kids were home, the King of Pop took tremendous measures to keep them safe. Protecting the Neverland Ranch and implementing several security measures were the first steps. Michael reportedly placed numerous emergency buttons throughout the ranch, but fortunately none were ever used. However, they briefly paused when security showed up to look into one of the alarms. The team didn't realize it was only Biggie accidentally touching the button out of curiosity as a toddler until they looked around. The Jackson children witnessed the disintegration of Michael Jackson's legacy. When Biggie's father's name made headlines and Michael Jackson was arrested on numerous charges of inappropriate behavior with children, he was still a little child. Prince and Paris regrettably were old enough to understand what was happening. In addition, other accusers came forward after Michael's death and the accusations persisted. Regretfully, the Jackson children witnessed Michael's struggle with a breakdown as his legacy and mental health were tainted by the charges. Paris even recalls its toll on Michael when investigators seized the Neverland Ranch. All the Jacksons were impacted, but Michael was always the one who took the brunt of it. In February 2022, MJ the Musical had its Broadway debut. Even years after their deaths, very few musicians have managed to leave a lasting legacy. Remarkably, Michael Jackson is among the select handful who have accomplished this, as a musical in his honor will be performed in 2022. The original plan was for MJ the Musical to debut on Broadway in 2020. When MJ finally debuted in February 2022, it was greeted with a mixed reception right away, after years of delays brought on by external problems. Despite this, the musical won 4 Tony Awards and was nominated for a staggering 10, including Best Musical. With more than 25 tracks overall, MJ chronicles Michael's life in a way that's never been done before. Michael and his kids were happy every day because they had the house decked out for the holidays. The joy their father used to bring to the world is one of the many things Prince, Paris, and Biggie may hopefully carry on with their lives. The King of Pop, it turns out, had a unique method of ensuring he was happy every day, like putting up his holiday decorations year-round. This resulted from Michael's years of upbringing as a Jehovah's Witness, which prevented him from experiencing Christmas as a child. By distancing himself from religion and pursuing his interests, Michael could do as he pleased with his house, including keeping it festive for him and his kids. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon